What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing two deep dives with one video. Primarily, I'm continuing my deep dive into covers albums. Not a fan of covers albums. There's one I listen to often, Guns N' Roses, The Spaghetti Incident. Just I've always loved that album. Other than that, covers albums are really hit and miss with me, with more misses than hits, and so I never check them out. But I thought, hey, there's got to be some good ones out there, so that's what I'm doing today. And then today, that cover album will be Bruce Springsteen's We Shall Overcome, the Seeger Sessions. Also doing a deep dive on Springsteen's studio albums elsewhere on the channel. So when I got to this, in the decade it was released, which was like the 2000s, this came out in 2006, I was like, oh, that's right. This is a covers album. I listened to this a lot and absolutely love this album, but it wasn't on my covers albums list because I just didn't even consider it. It just seems, I don't know. I know it's a covers album. It's in the title, We Shall Overcome, the Seeger Sessions. But I don't know. It just didn't feel like it felt in the same genre as an artist covering a bunch of someone else's songs and being disappointing for whatever reason. And this is not a disappointing album. This is an absolutely fantastic album. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to review it with sort of the same mindset that I approach the other covers albums, even though like as a whole, I think this is an absolutely fantastic album. Ranks up there with the Spaghetti Incident as far as my favorite covers albums. But I'm going to go song by song, and every song will get a point or no point. Sometimes I break my own rules and I will give it half a point. I'll make a percentage. There's 13 tracks on the original release. That is the one I've been listening to, for 2 decades plus now. And then that'll be like a percentage, and then I'll rank it among all the other ones. And I'm going to be a little more critical than I probably am when I listen to this in general, just because it makes videos like this more fun for me. But I absolutely love this album. And in a weird way, as I looked at the rankings for these songs, and I was like trying to I don't know, come up with an explanation for how I arrived at the conclusion I arrived at as far as the percentages, I realized the thing that makes this album absolutely fantastic is the thing that, in a sense, undercuts a couple of the songs, maybe 2, maybe 3. But what this was is, much to my surprise, I think the story was Springsteen did not know much about Pete Seeger, which, he was more of a 50s rock, that sort of kind of old school rock thing that he loves and celebrates, the Detroit sound and all that crazy stuff. But he wasn't a Seeger fan, or he didn't know much about Seeger, which if you pay attention to his lyrics, you're like, wow, that's surprising and kind of incredible that you kind of mine the same land without actually having much knowledge of Seeger. So he discovered Seeger. I think he was invited to do like another tribute album or some other project. Did a deep dive into Seeger, decided to record this album. And the recording apparently was it's not a live recording, quote unquote, but there were just live sessions. Like he got, I think, 13 other musicians. Somebody recommended a bunch of musicians that were familiar with this stuff. I think it's 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I think it's 12 plus him, or maybe it's 13 total. I don't know. But it's a big group of musicians. And they kind of said, hey, this is the song we're going to do. Let's do it this way, blah, 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 this key. And then they just recorded them. And it was a very spontaneous sessions. And that energy is here. It is fantastic. It is so vibrant. It is a celebration of Pete Seeger's music in just the most fun way possible. It is just from start to finish. It's just the energy is high. It's exuberant. There's a lot going on. But the sound has a richness to it. It's just like full band celebratory folk rock. If you were Pete Seeger or from his family, you couldn't want any more of just a pure celebration of what your father had done or grandfather or whatever he is to you. Pete Seeger pretty much performed folk music that is either traditional or we don't know who the original author was. Every once in a while he would contribute lyrics. But these are just songs that Pete Seeger had played in his time and brought to the attention of the music buying public and music listening public. 13 songs on the original. I think there's a couple different versions that have additional tracks. I've listened to those, but to me, this 13 is the heart of this celebration. 13 songs, Um, and they have three sort of musical strands. There's a lot I want to say about this. So I'm a little like, there's like three sort of musical strands that Springsteen is bringing to his interpretations that kind of make them, I guess, uniquely his in a way. He has banjo, so that bluegrass, folky banjo, Pete Seeger element is there. There's a lot of really nice violin that has almost like a back porch country vibe. One of the songs, John Henry, starts with a dun 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 that sounds exactly like the intro to Ween's Pretty Girl. There's a pretty girl. But there's a lot of really good violin action and like a country vibe. But then the one thing he also brings that doesn't always work for me, especially when I'm going through and trying to pay attention to these songs and actually like figure out, okay, am I just listening? Have I always just like listened to this song to get to the next one, or is there something I like in it? There is this horn section. There's this horn vibe. We got a trumpet, saxophone, and a trombone. And it's the trombone that maybe pushes us more to this than the other two. But that has a very New Orleans, woozy, Mardi Gras, late night celebratory vibe. And it is that vibe that in a couple of songs, I think it detracts from the power of the lyrics. And I'll get to those two songs. But I think that is the one element. Like the bluegrass banjo stuff works, the folky stuff works. I think the violin country stuff works. But every once in a while, that New Orleans sound is not what the song he chose to cover needed. I think it's a great selection of songs. Absolutely fantastic. One issue with the sequencing, We Shall Overcome is the penultimate song and not the last song. We get We Shall Overcome, and then we get Froggy Went a Courtin'. I just think We Shall Overcome should have been last. It just makes more sense, just with Springsteen being Springsteen, thematically the name of the album and all that stuff. But that's a minor nitpick. But yeah, Old Dan Tucker opens up the album, which is just a barrel of fun. It is an absolutely great choice to open, great energy. It's a great opener. You got the horns, you got just the vibrant, folky, celebratory energy. Yes. Jesse James follows. A simpler sort of start to the song. So we're like opening big and kind of bringing it down. But then again, we have like a really nice drop somewhere in the middle of it. So then the horns come in and the energy comes in. The bass is really killing it. Really upbeat vibe. 2 for 2, 100%. Then we kind of get a more of a traditional Irish folky vibe with the next one, Mrs. McGrath. This is one of those, it's very like, you know, like a repeated refrain as you tell the story of a mother whose son goes off to war and the son comes home and he's missing legs. And she's like, what'd you do? Did you get drunk? You know, what happened? He's like, no, Mom, I went to war. And this is the kind of thing that happens. And this is one of those, and I think this is a good version. I'm not going to, this one gets a full point. But there are a couple of songs on here where I wish Springsteen had done more of a, like really went a starker energy, you know, and said, hey, I know we got all these musicians in the room, but this one, it's just going to be on me on guitar, or, you know, the two of us being a bass player. I do think some of these songs, Springsteen could have brought a little more heft and weight and import to the lyrics. Like one of the, I mean, I'm comparing it to the Pogues and the band played Waltzing Matilda, which there's just such a, like that song, they make that their own and they give it just a power that, yes, the original had, but I think that performance on that album, their studio version is just absolutely one of the greatest things ever. And I think Springsteen could have upped the musical ante a little bit on a song like Mrs. McGrath, on like a war soldier type song. I think the similarities, obviously, both being about war. I think that's why this reminds me of that song. I'm still giving it a full point, but I do think there are times he could have toned it down and gone a little more Nebraska, and I would have liked that. And then we get after that, Oh Mary, Don't You Weep. Just great energy, gospel, folk, awesome trumpet energy. Just not, the woozy horns work 100% in this song because it's got this gospel-y vibe. 4 for 4 to lead off. John Henry, I think, is a little bit of a misstep. It just feels a little too long. I think it's just an average performance. I think Bruce is trying way too hard with the vocals. He's being too much of like he's inhabiting this character who would sing these songs. So John Henry doesn't really work for me. But then after that, we get, I think, one of the better songs on the covers on the album, Erie Canal, kind of a slower, eerier vibe for Erie Canal. I didn't mean that, but it's eerie. Nice banjo voice, energy. Just, I think one of the better songs. Great choice, great performance. It definitely brings it down a little bit more, and is that thing I was looking for. But I think Mrs. McGrath should have had it also. Then we get Jacob's Ladder, which is another one that doesn't really work for me. I don't think it's bad by any stretch, but it also kind of revisits the "Oh Mary, Don't You Weep" gospel energy, but not as well. At the end, the New Orleans horns come in, and I just don't think they work in this song. I think maybe not. It just feels a little bit too rote. This one feels like too much of a template at this point. We did it, let's do it again, but not bad. And then we get My Oklahoma Home, which is actually Jacob's Ladder. The horns don't really matter because the song's just average. But My Oklahoma Home, it's not a celebration of it because the horn pretty much blowing in the wind. It blown away, because of the Dust Bowl and, Grapes of Wrath and Tom Joad and all that stuff. And it really has this, the banjo bass driving energy, the sort of Western call and response thing. It sets it very much in Oklahoma. And when the horns come in at the end, you're like, wait a minute, wait, what? We're now in Louisiana. That's one where I think it undercuts the success of the song, giving it a half point. And then same with Eyes on the Prize, the next song. We got a story about Paul and Silas. It's a slower, somber one. Some great backing vocals. Get a little bit of the instruments come in and things get a little bit crazier. We get some really nice sort of short violin leads that give it a really nice moodiness. But then the horns come in. And you're just like, no, the horns don't always need to come in. And I understand it's like this live jam session thing and they're just standing around anyways. You might as well bring them in. But 2 songs in a row, it seems almost like a template. And 2 songs in a row, I think it undercuts the success of the song. Then we get Shenandoah. We do get some more slower gospel-y folk, so he kind of brings it down. Really nice, like banjo, violin leading the energy here. Really good song. Interesting, I've been teaching school for 32 years. I've never, ever had a Shenandoah in my class, ever. 2 years ago, I had 2 of them in my class, a boy Shenandoah and a girl Shenandoah. Just the most random thing ever. Both of them named after this, I think the river, or the part of the country, like the Shenandoah River Valley, both inspired to be named from that. Very interesting. Then we get Pay Me My Money Down, a little bit of a repetitive thing, maybe goes on just a little too repetitive, but we get a nice like acoustic vocal entry, then a full band drop, got some accordion action on that one. We Shall Overcome, really nice finger picking in this. Whoever's playing the acoustic guitar, I'm assuming it's Bruce. Nice softer vocal. I think this should be the last song. I also think I think Bruce could have made this a much bigger anthemic, like crazy over the top thing. He doesn't. Mad props to I think restraining himself on this one, though I would have been interested had he tried to make this more of a centerpiece to the album, because it doesn't even feel like a centerpiece to the album from which it's got this shares the name of, but it works because it's not either the opener. I think it should be the closer. Glad it's not the opener, but I don't know. Somehow it works despite my little complaints for it. And then Froggy Went a Courtin'. It's just a really good time. Banjo, a nice hand drum, kind of low key start, kind of builds as instruments come in. Last 2 should be flipped, but no real complaints. Fantastic album. It's just fun. It's a good listen. I have 0 complaints about this other than the ones I aired. But when I listen to this, those things aren't bothering me because it's just I think it's pretty short too, or relatively short. No, it's an hour long, but it doesn't feel like an hour. I don't know. I think it's a fantastic cover. But out of the 13 points available for the 13 songs, I'm only going to give it 10 because I don't think John Henry works. I don't think Jacob's Ladder works. And there are 2 songs in which kind of the last third of the album, last third of the song is kind of the power's undercut by the horns, right? So we got 2/3. And then the situation with We Shall Overcome, Froggy Went a Courtin', that's another third. So that's 3 points. I'm giving it a 10 out of 13, which when you do the math is 77%, which means It's right there at number 2, right behind the Neil Young album. So yeah, which is still surprisingly good. Another one that I remember liking sort of and then rediscovering I actually really liked. But really, so far in this listen, and I'll be honest, I listened to this album, the Bruce Springsteen one, way more than I do the Bridge, a lot more. But when I sit down and actually try to look at it, just a stupidly critical album just for the sake of this video, I have to admit, I think there's something maybe a little more overall ambitious and successful about the Bridge. I just think this is way more of a fun listen. It is something I'm way more likely to put on. The only other one on this list that I've gone back and listened to, regardless of what the rankings are, is Ann Wilson's Hope and Glory. I think she does a really good job with that. Good song selection. Her performances are fantastic. And the ones that she doesn't do good on or didn't get points are really just her picking songs that I don't think anybody should cover. Like, no, you don't mess with that one. Just don't. It's just, you're good, but don't. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. All right. Yeah, that Weezer one. Don't ever listen to that. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts on this. If I was to include this in my Springsteen ranking, it'd be out of it. It wouldn't be top 10 just because it's covers, and I'd have to put other things higher than that. So, but yeah, all right, that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But who knows? But yeah, all right. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this album. If you check it out, if you haven't checked it out, things I messed up on, things you know about his relationship with Seeger. I find that fascinating that he didn't know him before. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.